Morning. Just rating my run here. All right, 10 miles today. Um, Back up a little bit. It's a little Frankenstein run, about 8:24 average. And it's been a good morning. Allergies feel pretty decent. Got my heart rate monitor, I can take that off. I collected my fair share of bugs on my chest. And then I got my heart rate monitor tan of death. But yeah, the heart rate monitor. We use a MyZone at our gym. MyZone is a heart rate monitoring system that provides a, wow, our neighbor's dog is really trying to compete. But it's a heart rate monitor system that gives you real-time feedback. So we have like a little Intel computer stick, almost like a Fire Stick, that plugs in, and there is a reception tool or a receiver that these heart rate monitors link up to. And so we project that onto a screen, and then you can see these squares that pertain to you and your heart rate, and it'll tell you what percentage of your heart rate you're at a particular time or particular exercise, and tell you how many calories you burn. Of course, that's an estimate. And then you get some points that make it fun to want you to encourage you to want to continue your fitness journey. It's all about being consistent every month and collecting a certain number of points, and that requires you to be at a certain heart rate or getting your heart rate up to a certain level for an extended period of time, multiple days in a month. It's a cool system. It's something that's really brought some camaraderie to our gym. We can use it to do competitions and games, which is really, really nice. But the even cooler thing is that the MyZone connects with my Garmin, and so I can, when I go out on my runs, I can track my heart rate real time as well. So it's a useful tool when you're going out and you're training and you're trying to keep different paces, an easy pace, or if you're trying to push a harder pace, and just kind of seeing how your heart rate's doing. Are you recovering? How your breathing impacts your heart rate. So it's a really, really nice tool to help with managing your workload. So there's other devices out there, like Polar is another really, really popular heart rate monitor that'll link up with your Garmin or with general watches. I just use the MyZone purely because we have that system built into our gym, and it just coincidentally links up with my Garmin. I actually didn't know that it would until it did. So, fun fact. Anyways, today I want to talk a little bit about heel striking versus toe striking. And I'll probably have to scoot back for this a little bit, or maybe I'll stand up for a period of time. But which is best? Heel striking or toe striking or midfoot striking when you're running? And I have my beliefs based off of my experience and what my belief is when it comes to the biomechanics of us as human beings. And what turned me on to this was that back when I was younger, I was a racquetball player. And my life goal at that time, was to become a professional racquetball player and to make money being a professional athlete. Frankly, at that time, I didn't care how much money I made, as long as I made money and all I had to do was train and play. Um, of course, unfortunately, racquetball is not, if you know anything about racquetball, it's not very easily televised, which means no money, right? And so, although the sport is still alive, it is a struggling sport, but it is a sport that I love. It holds a very, very special place in my heart because it's really what's helped kind of catapult my fitness journey to where it is today, or at least start my fitness journey to where it is today. And so I have a very, very special place in my heart. But the point is that when I used to play racquetball, I had this issue. I had a few issues, but that's for another day. But I had this issue where I would always turn my ankle. I had very, very fragile ankles. It didn't take much. It really impacted me as I was trying to progress in my career to the point where I would be injured every few months. It was just a little tweak here, a little tweak there, and I tried everything. I tried the McDavid lace them up ankle braces. There used to be this company, I don't know if they're still out, called Aircast, where you would have these air pockets with a plastic support, and there would be like this thing that would go underneath your heel. um, I would also tape my ankles. So I took a kinesiology class in college and learned how to tape ankles. And for a long period of time, I would tape my ankle every single day. And even when I would go and play basketball, which is another sport that I love dearly, it just didn't matter. Something would happen, and I would turn my ankle, and then I'd be out for weeks. And it was very, very discouraging for me at the time. And that really went on till I got into my late 20s. At that point, I found, I got so tired of going to the doctor, and they would say, rest it, rest, ice, compression, elevation, and that was kind of the diagnosis or the treatment recommendation was to rest it, elevate it, ice it, compression, and just wouldn't work. As soon as I would go back to playing, they would still feel fragile, and then it wouldn't be very long before I twisted my ankle again. And so I really started doing some digging into different methods to rehabilitate my ankles and figuring there had to be a better way. Someone had to have figured this out. And so I came across a book, an ebook that was, I can't remember who wrote the book, but it was called The Hem Method. H-E-M. H is in Harry, E is in Eric, M is in Mary. Hem Method. I think you can still go out and buy the book, or that person may have turned that into like an electronic, like something that you can purchase. But it was an ebook that I could purchase, and at the time I was like at my wit's end, and I was willing to try just about anything at that time. And so they had tons of great reviews. Oh, my daughter was back to playing volleyball in 2 to 3 weeks. It's been amazing. And so I thought, well, gosh, you know what? I should try it out. There's really no other option at this stage because I've tried everything else that's been recommended by my doctors and my physical therapists and all that other stuff. So the Hem method was really interesting because it started from the beginning, and it would talk about biomechanics and how our bodies operate, specifically running and jumping. And what he explained that really stuck with me was that the only reason why we as human beings have the capability of heel striking when we run is because of the development of amazing shoes and amazing cushioning systems. If it was not for those cushioning systems, we would not be able to heel strike when we run. And the explanation that he gave was, well, go take your shoes off and then go try to run and see how you run. And it was mind-blowing to me because I never thought about it that way, because it is completely different. When you take your shoes off and you want to run, you run on the balls of your feet because your heels don't have any cushioning system. Where when you run on the balls of your feet, you have your calves that can act as your first level of shock absorbers. Even the muscles in your feet act as shock absorbers, and then of course it progresses up. And so whereas when you run and you heel strike, there's no cushioning system if you don't have shoes on, and then it goes right up to your knees. And so what he would explain is that the first area that would get hurt are people's ankles. And the ankles are some of the most mobile, if not the most mobile joint that we have, if aside from our shoulder. And if we hurt our ankles too much, then our ankles become stiff with scar tissue. They are not as flexible. And so then the next most mobile joint that needs to be is going to be your knees. And that's why we then get a lot of knee injuries. And so he went into depth about modern day shoes and heel striking causing us to have weak feet, weak calves, and then it would cause stiffness in the ankles and instability in the knee, and cause all kinds of injuries coming all the way up our leg. And so it made a lot of sense to me. So I thought, well, gosh, you know what? I need to start changing the way that I run. The method also includes a bunch of exercises. So the other thing was I had to learn how to strengthen the tibialis right here. And so there was a lot of exercises to strengthen this part. I used to do a lot of calf raises because there was at a time I really wanted to be able to dunk a basketball. And so I would do a bunch of calf exercises. Well, guess what? When you strengthen your calves, then what happens is that, and you don't strengthen your tibialis anterior, what happens is that your foot is more prone to extend, which when you are jumping in basketball, I'll use this as an example, right? I jump. Then when I get fatigued, when I land like this, and then my foot may land like this, and then that would cause, well, almost every single one of my ankle injuries. And so there were a lot of band exercises that worked on the tibialis, building the strength there. I would also do a bunch of stretches to stretch all the areas around my feet. And there were all types of other methods to help strengthen and rebuild that part of my body. It was life-changing, and I can't understate that, or I can't overstate that. I'm sorry. I cannot overstate that. Now, at 43 years old, when I play in a basketball league, I still play as tenacious as possible as a 43-year-old as when I did in my 20s. I don't get ankle injuries. I also don't wear an ankle brace. I do not tape my ankles any longer. It's been life-changing. Again, I cannot overstate that. Part of that process was changing the way that I ran. So I was a heel striker when I was younger because I didn't know any better. And so I had to change to the way that I would run. So it was, I needed to start running on the balls of my feet, or I started toe striking. But that's the way I thought about it, as opposed to heel striking. That did a few things for me. Number one, it shortened up my strides and it increased my cadence. So, how many steps that I would take for every stride. Um, so, my strides became shorter, my steps became higher, my cadence increased. Naturally, I didn't know how much that would help me in my marathon training, but it's helped me tremendously. That built the strength of my feet, built the strength of my ankles or the muscles around my ankles, my calves. Um, again, it's been tremendous. So, if I had to pick one, I would toe strike. Well, and I've had to pick one because, I mean, when I go run, I have to pick one. Toe striking is far superior. It is the way that we as humans were meant to run. If you were to go watch an indigenous tribe going out hunting and tracking down an animal, they are not heel striking when they run. You are also a lot more agile when you are on the balls of your feet or on the forefoot of your feet, as opposed to when you're landing on your heels. It is harder and harder to change direction. You have less stability whenever you are landing, which also could cause injuries in the long run. So that is my story when it comes to heel striking versus forefoot striking or toe striking. Is toe striking is the way that we as human beings were meant to run. And if you are one that has had issues with ankle injuries and it's become a pain point for you, I would highly recommend looking up the HEM method online, and I think that it'll change your life just like it has changed mine. All right, you guys, I got to get inside. It is Mother's Day weekend, and I got to go take care of Liz. I know that for some people, they say Mother's Day is a day. I believe that Mother's Day is every day, because all you moms out there have sacrificed your bodies to produce children for us men, and well, to produce us as men. And we need to appreciate what you have done for us, because that is something that makes you guys extremely, extremely special. So, happy Mother's Day. I hope you guys have a wonderful one. And for you husbands out there or dads out there, go take care of the mothers in your life. All right. Love you all. Take care.